I'm the Vice President of Hybridin, which wholly owns Quick Games, and today I'm going to be talking about what it takes to make a hit game in only 6 weeks. So what we do at Quick Games, we focus on these things called quick to market, right? These are just very simple, minimalistic, very addictive games. They tend not to have high retention. They pretty much come and go, and they're developed within a couple of weeks, in a lot of these cases months, but we've been able to perfect the development process to actually get these things out in a matter of a couple of weeks. So just who we are just 3 people. We're a developer, a designer, and an artist that works within Hybridin, and we use the AAA technology that Hybridin provides us to make these great and fantastic games. And every time we make one of these games, what we're really building is a technology platform. So every new game has to have an agnostic feature that we can apply to the next game. And then over time, what we have is a very powerful technology stack. And what I will say, Quick Games only started this year in January. So as I said, we're powered by Hybridin. We're about 140 employees based in Montreal. We've 60 million downloads to date. We've worked with some of the top-rated brands and IPs in the industry. These are some of the games that we've developed or co-developed. And we've also published some of our own. So let me just break down to the track record of Quick Games, a company you haven't heard of because we haven't announced anything. We haven't even announced our existence yet. But to date, we've launched 4 games. Our first game, Ches, was 7 weeks of development. Right now, that's at about 1 million downloads. Blasty Bubs, that was about 8 weeks. Then Canyon Crash, and then Laps. And I'll talk more about Laps shortly. But what's important here to know is each game so far has showed a significant increase across the board for nearly every major KPI. And Laps, which only took 4 weeks. So that Laps was amazing because it was 4 weeks, just 4 weeks of development. And we got a top banner placement in the App Store worldwide. And then this week we got featured by Google in Best New Updates. And we're also going to get some featuring that I can't talk about in the next coming weeks as well. And even though we've only been out for 2 weeks, we've already generated 1.5 million downloads. And I can say that we're profitable. Within 2 weeks of launching a game, we are profitable. And the downloads and the revenues keep coming. And not too many games, especially in the free-to-play mobile market, can say that. Usually it takes about a good 6 to 8 months after production before you actually start seeing a profit. So let me explain a little bit about the way we approach this kind of rapid development process. We're constantly designing games. Our game designer, basically every 1 to 2 to 3 days, is pumping out a new prototype for us to play. And what we're doing is, the actual development time, the whole time to actually launch a game, like Laps, is actually about 12 weeks. The core development happens around week 2 to week 7. But then from there, we're doing QA, we're going into soft launch, we're doing rapid optimization. And because these games, they come together so fast, marketing can't keep up. It's the first time in the history of that I've been in video games where we're actually telling marketing they need to speed up. And I've worked on big free-to-play games. I did console, I did PC. And when it comes to the marketing part, it's because these games don't come together to the end. Marketing actually needs time to put together the assets, to put together the trailers. I actually have to obviously pitch to Apple and Google as well. And then, of course, we launch. And then during that time, we're already working on our next game. So by the time we've already launched Laps, our next game is about 40% done. And of course, we do have one policy too, which is if any game generates more than $1 million downloads in the first week, we go back and do another update. So we'll actually keep working on the game. So we do have a team right now that is currently working on Laps. But there are struggles. We have serious game design struggles. Everybody thinks they know how to make a great game. Everybody in here has a pitch, an idea, a thought of what a good game is. And what I've found, especially doing a lot of these rapid prototypes, it's really tough to design a game. And right now I'm actually going to show you, this is what the part of the presentation most people like, I'm going to show you our prototypes. So let's see if this plays. Ooh. So this is a wrestling game. This one was done in, I think, a half day. And yeah, it's kind of chaotic. And this is the process. And from there, we got to somehow envision what the final game is. This is a game where you throw a toothpick in the air and are trying to build a sandwich. This was prototyped in about a day as well. And we have to make a decision off of stuff like this. Should we put the game into full production? And see if we can get. All right, let's see. You missed the sandwich. There you go. And I really have to commend the team behind this. And then I never actually was able to really figure out what this game was. And it was an auto shooter, and you had modulars that fell apart, and you're able to pick up new ones. Unfortunately, I have a very strict rule. I don't do space games. I don't do space mobile games. I feel like they just don't work. And yeah, Star Wars is an exception, of course. And I think there's one more prototype here called Hello. This one was based off of an old NES game. And this would essentially just be little characters that run around. And then if you get attacked, you lose that character. And so that's kind of the prototype phase. And then what I'm going to show you next, after this next video, this next quick one, is what the final products actually look like. So this is Canyon Crash. Canyon Crash, so this is the final product, live in the stores today. And this right here, this next one is Laps. This is so far our most successful game. And let's look at this. This is kind of like a match 3 meets 2048, where you have to match the numbers. You match the numbers, they come together, perform multipliers. Very simplistic game. It was just very simple, straight to the point. There really wasn't a lot to it, but for some reason it just became incredibly addictive. And this was something that we were able to achieve, and it's, at this point, I don't even know if it matters, but it was done in 4 weeks, and incredibly successful game for us. So let's move on. Look, mistakes, glitches, bugs, they happen. What we've learned in a very rapid development cycle is that sometimes you can't predict when a critical bug is going to come up. And in most development schedules, if something's wrong, you fix it. But when you're operating off of a budget of 6 weeks, sometimes you just need to move on. Scrap it, fix it, or just simply move on. But what we have found is that it all does start with a solid game design document and a game flow mockup. That's where we set the pillars, we set our clear goals, and as long as we stick within those parameters, we find that we're able to make incredibly more successful games each time. And of course, we always leave room for at least 1 week of rapid development, like I mentioned. We throw something into soft launch, throw it into the Philippines, at least get some data back, and then rapidly develop from there. And then, of course, there's always a common saying like, we don't call them bugs, we call them features. So next I'm going to show you, this is our next game that is going into development right now. This prototype was done in 1 day. Missed. So it's obviously a gymnastic game. And, come on. Get up there. And, so this one was done by one person in 1 day. And then we put an additional week, so now we're just over a week into development, and now this is what it looks like today. And then there is no sound. Sound doesn't come in until like week 4, week 5. So just after 1 day of prototyping, and now this is, I would say, 5 business days of development. This is what our next game is. We don't have a name for it yet. We're calling it Project Fabio. Oh, come on. Yes. Yes, there we go. There you go. No. And there's going to be an ending. There we go. And then we have a target there. And there we go. All right, he did it. So that's a preview of our next game, which should come out, probably won't come out for another 10 weeks because we have to add time for marketing. So all the copycat publishers and developers that are out there, like Voodoo, feel free to try to beat us to market. You won't. So when we talk about rapid development, when we launch a game into soft launch, we only do it for about 2-3 days. We don't have enough time. And what the team is able to do, because we have such a strong analytic platform at HybridM, is we're able to make very quick decisions. And a good example of that is Blasty Bubs. We put that into soft launch. Our day one retention was 17%. The rewarded ads, characters that people were unlocking were absolutely horrible. But just with a few extra days of development, just a few extra days, we were able to get retention from 17% to 31%, and in a lot of cases, double our rewarded ads, and of course, 700% increase in people actually unlocking other characters. And that was done in just 1 week. Lapse is the same way. But we actually did this post-launch. So we knew it was successful. I mean, 4 weeks for a game to be in development, you just don't know how successful it's going to be. And the second we got the featuring, we got the downloads, we got the feedback, the metrics were wonderful. We put instantly, we stopped development on Project Fabio. We have another project called Project E. We put everything back into Lapse. And what we were able to do in 1 week is significantly increase retention, 22% increase relative, that's great. But one thing we did is we actually increased our in-app purchase revenues from 5% of total revenues to 40% in one update in 1 week. And ARPDAU, unfortunately, I'm not allowed to release our ARPDAU numbers. Maybe you buy me a beer or two later and I might reveal it. That's 3 beers. We jumped nearly 50% in our ARPDAU. And right now we're making more money now than we were at launch when we were getting all this featuring. And when we originally started up QuickBite, this is how we viewed our monetization, our ad model. We figured 75% of our revenue would come from rewarded ads, right? Ads where people watch them and they get something in return. And then 20% from forced, and then 5% from in-app purchases. What we felt, and from examining consumer, because I used to run a research firm, so I do a lot of focus groups. I love data. I love analytics. But what I've been finding is consumers now know that an in-app purchase is them investing not just their money, but they're going to be investing time into your game. So when they know what a quick-to-market game is. They may not know what quick-to-market means, but they know a cheap game when they see it. They know how long they're going to be playing that game. And it's very tough for them to actually convert them into in-app purchases. And when you look at the catch-up model, or you talk to Voodoo, and a lot of these other companies and publishers that do these kind of quick-to-market games, they'll kind of tell you the same thing. The majority of their revenue actually comes from in-app purchases, from rewarded ads. And then we did this thing with Lapse, and it completely flipped everything on its head. Now Lapse, 40% of our revenue comes from in-app purchases. And we just made one small change, and it only took a day. It took one day for a programmer, 1 day for UI and design. And all we did was we just offered a feature for $2.99. You get the whole thing. You unlock every mode, every character. You'll never be bugged with an ad again. All the bonuses, it's yours, right? And the way we felt about it is, of course, our LTV is not $2.99. And we felt like, okay, if you gave us $2.99, you get everything. And people loved that feature, and we were completely shocked. And now, like I said, we're making more money now than we ever have before from just this one single feature. Just here you go, $2.99, unlock everything. We've done things before where you can pay 99 cents to remove ads. That didn't work, right? And so we were a little bit skeptical, but it worked. And this is now a standard a feature in our technology stack that you're going to see in every one of our games. But we still do have to rely on rewarded ads. Forcing people to watch ads is very difficult. It hurts retention. And we have been experimenting a lot over the last 4 games, over the last 7 months. And what we find, the best type of rewarded ads is actually giving players an incentive for the next game. And what I mean by that is, in the games that you kind of saw, there is death. Like you fall or you run out of laps. Giving them a rewarded ad that allows them to get some type of boost in the next game, we found that works best not only for retention, but also for our average sessions and, of course, average daily playtime. Next is anything unlock. Unlocking a character to watch an ad. We find that to be very, very useful. Timers. So anything such as watch this, and for the next 30 minutes, you'll get double XP. We find that works really well. I actually played a game a couple weeks ago where if you watched an ad, they gave you an offer. If you watched an ad, they promised they wouldn't serve you another ad for at least 10 minutes. And I was told conversion rates actually on that were really high. And then, of course, you got your keep playing, right? You can just keep playing your score, wipes the board. And anything that's double XP, a coin doubler, we find those typically work best. Now, I'll just give you the results by the numbers. These are kind of the goals that we shoot for. When we launch our games, we want to get at least a $19 eCPM. When I say blended, that means across Tier 1 all the way down to Tier 3 countries. We want every engaged user, so an engaged user being a user that has watched an ad, we want at least them to watch 4 ads per day for an engaged user. What we have found through testing and studying is that most players can go about 4 minutes in between watching ads. Anything less than that, and you're getting to the point of frustration, and anything more, you might be leaving some money on the table. Right now, we found that sweet spot at around 4 minutes. And of course, on average, just total, we want the average ads per user per day to be about 2. And I do want to say, well, thank you very much to IronSource. I usually don't plug vendors. I hate vendors. Vendors email me all the time. And we used the previous ad mediation platform, and they were convinced, and IronSource convinced us to join them, and we saw a significant boost. So if you're not getting these types of eCPMs, and if you want to talk about Tier 1 countries like United States, we're getting the average is like $24 to $26. Incredible happy. So thank you. And if Lisa, you're in the crowd, or Tony, feel free to shout. Thank you very much, because that has done significant wonders for Quick Bites in Hybridin. But at the end of the day, it all does come down to retention. Everyone always asks me, what's the most important thing about the game? And you've heard it at this conference, and you're going to hear it again, and you're going to hear it throughout your time if you're in free-to-play. If you don't have retention, you don't have a game. You can have the highest amount. I've worked on games where our ARPDAU was 60 cents. 60 cents ARPDAU. But the retention was so bad, there's no way we could have published it. And ultimately, they had to kill the game. And I always kind of view our players, especially for these quick-to-market games, I kind of view them like goldfish. They have the attention span of a goldfish. You have 330 seconds from what we figured to get them hooked. And if not, the majority of them are going to delete it. So that first-time user experience really has to suck them in. And then it could be different. It could be different if you're making a deep RPG game, if you're making an action game, if you're making an idle or a clicker. But for these quick-to-market games, these people know that you got 330 seconds to get them addicted. Now, everyone asks us, because we maintain a really high star for games that are made so fast, we actually maintain a really strong star rating. And people always ask us about QA. Well, we do QA in a very interesting way. One, because we have a big studio, we always do daily high scores. So every day, it's either we pick a different character, it depends on the game, or a different character, a different strategy, a different board. But we have everyone play it, and they participate, and they come by and they write on their board with their high scores. But along with that, we want them to submit bugs as well. One thing, beta testers, going into the forums and actually asking people, hey, do you want to come and test my game? And as long as you build up a big enough database, and we built up a database of hundreds upon hundreds of beta testers, you'll find out that this community actually actively wants to help and play your game. And what we do with all of our beta testers, and they love this, because a lot of them are not within the industry, they're just gamers, is we mention that we will put them in the credits. We'll put your name in the credits and thank you for helping us beta test the game. And of course, you got soft launch. And then finally, we do just a final QA, 3 hours. We get 3 hours, we have a checklist, we go through it, and as long as we don't find anything that impacts at least 5 or over 5% of our users, then as long as it doesn't pass that threshold, then we're ready to go. So I've done anything. I've done PC console. I've done free-to-play PC. I've done very large mobile games of both premium as well as free-to-play. I do have to say, these quick-to-market games have been the most difficult process that or types of games that I've ever worked on, because you don't have time to think. You have to move. You have a budget. Right? And I don't mind saying this. A game like Laps, for instance, costs us $40,000 to make, and we'll probably end up doing $300,000 to $400,000 through the lifetime of Laps. Now, to a lot of people out there, and I talked to a lot of public. We got a lot of attention, and I'm kind of going off script here. This kind of pisses me off a little bit. Is we get a lot of attention from publishers who are interested in what they're doing, and then when we tell them, oh yeah, our game had got 1.5 million downloads, and they go, so our game got 50 million downloads, and then I say, yeah, and we're also going to do a couple $100,000 on the game. They go, yeah, so our games do that every day. But what they don't forget, we did it in 4 weeks, and we're going to do it again in another 4 weeks, and then another 4 weeks, and we're going to build a portfolio. So Quick Bite Games, you can't look at us as just one individual game. You have to look at it as a complete portfolio. So yes, making $100,000 profit a month doesn't sound like a lot, but if you can do it every month, then it works really well. Well, the other thing that we found very important was we found that using things like Trello board, Jira, it really bogs down the process for these quick-to-market games, so we only use it for bugs. I know it kind of defeats the standard best practices of game development, but we have found that using this type of process really does bog the team down. It actually adds a couple of weeks to development. And of course, just understand mistakes will happen, and sometimes you don't have time to fix it. You kind of learn and move on. So that's it about Quick Bite Games and what we accomplished. If you want a copy of the presentation, of course, you can always email me or come talk to me after this. But if we have time, do we have time?
Hey, we do.
If anyone wants to ask some questions, I guess.
Do we have questions? Anyone have a question? While you're thinking of a question, or in case they just don't have any, I actually happen to have a question that I'd like to know. So I'm compelled by this. I mean, it's interesting, and as long as I'm building, something that's not, going to be this hardcore first-person shooter, we're in good shape. Now, I'm assuming you use some sort of rapid development procedure or process for this. Have you tweaked an existing one? Have you built your own? Do you use one off the shelf?
In terms of, well, yeah, no, it's all proprietary. We built it ourselves. Yeah.
Well, then,
in terms of the process,
are you using Scrum? Or are you using?
Yes, we are using a very mild version, a very light version of the Scrum process. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we are doing weekly reviews. I mean, one thing that's really important is we do meet every Friday, and we say go or no go. And yeah, we've killed games. We've killed a lot of games. You saw some of the prototypes there that'll never get made. But every Friday, we make a decision. And I was in the presentation, and I think it's really important, not just for what we do, but in general. It's a really good saying. You bury the dead, and you bury the dead early. Right? Once you know something's not going to work, just bury it and move on. We spend so much time, especially in the larger free-to-play games, fixing things, and there's no ROI there. I see games that are in soft launch for years. In some cases, like, come on, just kill it. Just bury it. If they would have buried it a lot earlier, a lot more money would have been saved. And that's how it works for us, yeah. But yeah, there is a mild version of a project tracker and Scrum that we use.
It sounds like that's really an important point to take home, is making sure that you don't dwell too long on something that's not obviously going to be successful.
Yeah, and we've had games, and I've realized this, lately, but it's something I've been saying. Game developers really get attached to the games they're making, and even though it's staring them right in the face that this game is not going to succeed, they still want to keep pushing forward and still want to keep pushing forward. No, if it's not going to work and it's not going to, there's no shame in killing a project.
And of course, you figured out the metrics that you'll use to determine whether it's good or not, well ahead of schedule.
Well, so far we've been 4 for 4, right, in terms of games released, but yeah, we've had to cancel some games. Yeah. We won't release bad games.
I like that. That's good. Hey, thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
No problem.
Big round of applause. Hey.